goes with everything that you mentioned is for buying a property. And there's also additional terms and conditions and all additional fees when you have to sell that property on.
Yeah.
For example, when you have to now sell the property, you have to make sure that the rate is clear, COC,
the electrical certificates.
yeah, electrical certificates, and all of those are clear. And plus, you have to pay your electricity, water, rates, and taxes 3 months in advance. So for the next 3 months, to make sure that you cover any discrepancy that takes place within those 3 months.
Yeah.
Right, you listen the cons, the pros of buying a property.
Yeah.
But I feel like the cons are outweighed by 10 times.
Thing is, it's like corporate, right? It's a game.
Yeah.
It's also a game, but there's a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
But I think it's because we haven't taken the time to understand all of it. Obviously, like we said, our education system doesn't cater for these things,
Yeah.
which they should actually. But had we known all of this earlier, it wouldn't be like such a shock.
No.
Like, I mean, for any investor, first-time investor, or first-time buyer, trust me, it's a shock in terms of how many things goes into buying a property.
Nah.
It is crazy. I mean, you start having to pay for life cover, mandatory. You have to get life cover.
As in like.
Yeah.
Life insurance.
Yeah, you have to get when you buy a property. Because if something were to happen to you, what must happen now with the property? Because remember, it's on for example, Manchmera's name, right?
Yeah.
So we took up with the bank. The bank needs to have some sort of guidance in terms of something has to happen to both of us. What do they do with the property? You know.
Yeah.
And to make sure that they are covered.
And they are covered.
That you've taken a loan from them, so
I
how
can't
must
buy
they
a
get this
property
money
without
back?
life cover.
You can't.
It's
No.
impossible.
And without insurance.
Without insurance.
Yeah. It's mandatory to have insurance and life cover.
Damn, that's crazy.
As much as you think it's going to be, let's say you're 7,000 monthly, you need to consider the life cover. Maybe that's about 600, 700, depending on your package, you know, and then you still need to consider the insurance.
And maintenance
and maintenance you budget for, yeah.
But then like there's also things like groceries and furniture.
And all that. So
assuming that you're going to move into it.
Yeah. So even when you buy the property, right, some of the things the bank takes into account is your expense list. So how much do you spend on groceries? What's your entertainment budget? They go through this with you to say that, like, you know, how much does he really have in his pocket after he's done with his groceries, entertainment, etc. And that's how they also basically say that you only qualify for so much because you only have this much, right? So yeah, to go into renting, right?
Renting, yes.
So I think let's start with the pros. One of the pros that I do like is that the building maintenance is your landlord's problem, right? If you are going to stay in that property that you're renting, right? Let's use that situation. So if you're going to stay there, building maintenance is your landlord's problem, right? But if you are the investor looking for someone to rent your property, right? So you own the property, you're looking for someone to rent it out, it becomes your problem.
Yes.
You know, vice versa. So the other pro I had was that your monthly repayments, like I said, is actually less than a bond.
Yeah.
You know, so that is a major factor, considering that, you know, the way times are, you don't want to be stuck in one place all the time. You want to be able to shift.
To move,
So you want to stay in the north this year, next year you want to move. Maybe you get a job in the west. Now you need to move to the west.
Yes,
you know.
Yes.
So you get to work off that. Let's say about 5-6K a month. You know, that needs to go into paying your rental every month and so forth. You know. And then the third pro I had is that your rent amount is fixed. Right. So you live in there, rental amount is fixed. Right. Whereas if you're an investor, you determine these amounts. You know, so if you want to rent it out to Shemara for 4K, she can say yes or no. You know, it's up to her. Then you will find someone who wants it, but be reasonable, know your market as well.
So just on me, I have a question, bro. It's directed to the both of you guys there. It varies me if you know or not. So when it comes to like the buying of a property, right? You take out a bond and then there's an interest charge, right?
Yeah.
So if the interest rate changes, right? Does that also affect your bond cost? Say for example, I took a bond.
If it decreases or increases,
yeah.
Yeah, so it does affect your...
It does.
So I took out a bond this year 12%, next year is 15%. now I pay more.
It depends on the contract that you have. So it could either be a fixed contract or a variable contract. So fixed meaning that rate will stay the same, you know, besides inflation, etc. But if it's a variable contract, it will fluctuate with the interest rates. So if the interest rate decreases, you have a plus. What I suggest you do then is you add in more in your bond, because then you pay off sooner.
As you pay off more.
So if you were paying 7, you add 7.5 maybe.
Oh, okay.
So that you can pay off, when it's decreased, because now you're paying less, so you got like paying as fast as you can.
Possible,
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I see. Alright, yeah, back to renting though.
I raised a point with me just now during the break.
Yeah.
I forgot to add in there was it's highly dependent on your lease agreement, right? So it won't increase for a specific period. So if your contract is, let's say 12 months, right? In that 12 months you could just be paying 4K, right? However, just look into the contract to see if the contract states that this price may change at blah blah blah. You know? So almost like having a fixed or variable contract.
Can you say something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that there's a lot of stuff on Property 24 that has about how your annual increase is calculated, and rightfully so, the owner is able to say, due to whatever's happening in the market, they're gonna increase your rent. Rent
that's one of the
by
terms of it,
1.5% increase. So they can say like you will, and there's a lot of contracts that do say that you will be subjected to an annual increase.
Yeah, with at least 2 months notice.
No, I actually heard something when I was on Twitter the other day. Not heard of this, read. Was that someone said that if you're gonna rent out an apartment, for example, right, the deposit that you pay, the landlord is responsible to pay back at the end of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's right.
But also, like, I don't know if it's right, but they said they're supposed to put in like some fixed deposit.
I don't know about that.
I'm not sure about this.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Okay, I'm not
What do you
sure.
mean when you said like fixed? They're supposed to, the landlord's supposed to put in a fixed deposit.
Fixed deposit for you.
So I think it doesn't, in essence, it doesn't really matter where your landlord puts the money. At the end of the day, if you are moving out, that deposit needs to be available and be given back to you.
What's the deposit for though?
So for breakages and damage to the property. So, and anything else that may be outstanding on the property. Because if some places don't have metered electricity, but you were there during that stay, the landlord can take that from your deposit. And then especially for breakages and any damage to the property. If you broke a light, it can come out of your deposit.
Okay. Yeah.
Oh, okay.